It was a national holiday. Families were home. Children were watching movies. People were eating dinner together, laughing, living. When without warning, the ground underneath an entire nation stopped being solid. 6:04 p.m. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake detonated beneath western Venezuela, near a small town called Umare. People ran to doorways. Mothers grabbed children. Glasses shattered. Buildings cracked open like eggshells. And then, 39 seconds later, before the shaking had even stopped, a second earthquake hit. Magnitude 7.5. Even bigger. Same fault. Same region. Like the earth hadn't finished what it started. In less than 1 minute, Venezuela changed forever. To understand what happened, you need to picture a map of northern Venezuela. On one side, the Caribbean Sea, blue and calm. On the other, the dense, chaotic urban sprawl of Caracas, one of South America's largest capital cities, home to millions. In between, a mountain range, a coastline, and beneath all of it, invisible, silent, and loaded with unimaginable energy, a geological time bomb. On the evening of June 24th, a national holiday in Venezuela, the day the country celebrates the historic 1821 Battle of Carabobo, two massive earthquakes struck back-to-back, with epicenters in the Veros municipality of Yaracuy State. Their origins were just 3 miles apart. One eyewitness, a relief worker named Luis Colmenares, was 4 hours from Caracas, watching Toy Story with his sisters when the shaking hit. He later said,
Halfway through the film, everything went dark and everything started to shake. The shaking lasted between 2 and 3 minutes. It felt endless.
2 and 3 minutes. That may not sound long, but spend 60 seconds standing in a room you can't control, watching walls crack and ceilings fall, and 60 seconds becomes a lifetime. The U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS, immediately classified these quakes as among the most powerful to strike Venezuela in over a century. The 7.5 main shock, the single largest earthquake to hit Venezuela since 1900. 6 aftershocks rattled Caracas within 2 hours. A tsunami warning was briefly issued for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Simón Bolívar International Airport was damaged. All flights canceled. Venezuela wasn't just shaken, it was broken open. Let's talk about the damage, because the numbers tell a story that no single image can. As of June 25th, the day after, Venezuela's health minister confirmed at least 235 people dead, over 4,300 injured, and perhaps most heartbreaking of all, more than 40,000 people unaccounted for. Think about that last number, 40,000. That's not a statistic. That's tens of thousands of families staring at silent phones, waiting for someone to pick up. The state of La Guaira, north of Caracas, along the Caribbean coast, was declared a full disaster zone. Over 100 buildings collapsed there alone. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez called it, and I quote, a genuine tragedy. The worst-hit neighborhoods in Caracas, Los Palos Grandes and Altamira, urban areas packed with residential towers, many of them older buildings. In one section of southeastern Caracas, nearly every high-rise on the block was heavily damaged or destroyed. And here's the thing that made everything worse. This disaster hit a country already on its knees. Venezuela has been in economic freefall for years. More than 7.9 million Venezuelans have fled the country since 2014, one of the largest displacement crises on Earth, according to the UN. When the earthquakes hit, Venezuela had limited emergency services, limited public infrastructure, and a media landscape so controlled that over 200 websites were blocked, including news sites, social media, and VPNs, making it almost impossible for people to share information or call for help. Rescue workers in La Guaira weren't using advanced equipment. They were digging with their hands. And nearly 24 hours after the earthquakes, they were still at it. When a nation can least afford a catastrophe, that is precisely when catastrophe arrives. Okay, let's talk science. Because to understand Venezuela, you need to understand the ground Venezuela is sitting on. Here's something most people don't realize. The Earth's surface isn't one solid shell. It's broken into roughly 15 to 20 massive slabs called tectonic plates. And they are always moving, not fast, about the speed your fingernails grow, a few centimeters per year. But over millions of years, that slow drift builds up incomprehensible amounts of pressure. Northern Venezuela sits at one of the most geologically active plate boundaries on Earth, where the Caribbean plate grinds against the South American plate in a system of faults called the Bocono Moron El Pilar fault system. This system runs 1,300 kilometers over 800 miles along Venezuela's northern coast. Think of it like two massive tectonic conveyor belts locked together, slowly building stress. Not if they'll slip, just when. When that slip happens, in a fraction of a second, all that stored energy releases as seismic waves radiating outward in every direction. Like dropping a stone in a pond, except the pond is the entire crust of the Earth, and the stone weighs the equivalent of millions of nuclear bombs. The specific fault responsible for June 24th's earthquakes was the San Sebastian Fault, a right lateral strike slip fault, meaning the two plates were sliding past each other horizontally, like two giant hands dragging in opposite directions. The USGS calculated that the 7.5 main shock ruptured along a zone 150 kilometers long and 20 kilometers deep, approximately 93 miles by 12 miles, all of it moving in seconds. Now here's how earthquake magnitude actually works. Magnitude isn't linear, it's logarithmic. Every step up the scale represents roughly 30 times more energy released. A 6.0 earthquake is bad. A 7.0 is 30 times more powerful. A 7.5, you're looking at roughly 90 times the energy of a 6.0. And in Venezuela, two of these events hit within 39 seconds of each other. The ground didn't get the chance to recover between them. Meanwhile, the buildings standing on top of that ground were fighting a losing battle. Venezuela's seismic building code dates to 1982. Many older structures, built before that code or built ignoring it, were made of unreinforced brick masonry and brittle concrete. As Northeastern University engineering professor Merdad Sassanioy explained, a building's ability to survive an earthquake depends largely on how much it can move. More ductile structures can absorb energy. Brittle structures fail. Old buildings in Caracas weren't absorbing energy, they were shattering. Now, the most fascinating and terrifying part of this entire event, a doublet earthquake. This is rare, extraordinarily rare. Normally, when a fault ruptures, it releases stored energy, and then it goes quiet for a while, having relieved that stress. A doublet is different. It's two major earthquakes on the same fault system, nearly simultaneously, separated by seconds or minutes rather than years or decades. USGS seismologist Paul Earle put it bluntly, this doesn't happen very often. When they're right together, it's hard to understand what would happen. Here's the problem. When the 7.2 hit, structures across Venezuela cracked, shifted, and weakened. Steel bars bent, concrete fractured, load-bearing walls started to fail, and then, before occupants could escape, before any stabilization could occur, the 7.5 arrived and finished what the first quake started. Structurally, a building compromised by a 7.2 is like a human being punched hard in the stomach. They're bent over, gasping. The 7.5 was the second punch to the head while they were already down. In La Guaira, rescue teams reported that volunteers, ordinary residents, were among the first on scene, using their bare hands, calling out names, listening for voices in the rubble. USGS models estimated a 39% probability that deaths could reach into the thousands. Economic damage? Potentially billions to tens of billions of dollars. And the fault isn't done. There's an almost certain chance of a magnitude 5.0 or larger aftershock within the next week, and a 40% chance of a magnitude 6.0 or greater. The Earth has spoken, And it still has more to say. This is the part of the video that could literally save your life. Earthquakes don't send warning texts. They don't schedule appointments. And they don't only happen in Venezuela. Turkey, Japan, Nepal, California, New Zealand, no one is immune. So here is what survival experts in the USGS say you should do. While the shaking is happening, drop, cover, and hold on. This is not a slogan. This is your survival algorithm. The moment shaking starts, drop to your hands and knees immediately. Get under a sturdy table or desk if possible. Cover the back of your neck and head with your arms, and hold on until the shaking stops. Do not run outside during shaking. More earthquake injuries happen to people trying to escape than to people who shelter in place. Falling debris, breaking glass, and collapsing door frames kill runners. The floor under a sturdy table will not. Do not stand in doorways. This is an old myth. Modern buildings are not safer at doorways. They're equally dangerous, and you have nothing to hold on to. If you're in bed, stay there. Cover your head with a pillow. Rolling onto a hard floor beneath falling ceiling debris is worse. If you're outside, move away from buildings, streetlights, and utility wires immediately. Crouch down and cover your head. Debris falls outward from buildings. If you're driving, pull over slowly, away from overpasses, bridges, and buildings. Stay in the car until shaking stops. Immediately after shaking stops, expect aftershocks. They will come. Be ready to drop again. Check yourself for injuries before helping others. Check for gas leaks. If you smell gas, do not turn on any lights. Do not use your phone inside. Open windows and get out immediately. Do not use elevators. Do not light candles or matches until you are certain there are no gas leaks. If trapped under rubble, do not light a match. Cover your mouth. Tap on a pipe or wall. Tap 3 times. Pause. Repeat. This is how rescuers find survivors. Conserve your voice. Yelling exhausts oxygen. One final thing. Build your earthquake kit now, not after. Water, a flashlight, first aid supplies, a whistle, and a charged power bank. These cost less than $50. They may be worth everything. The people of Venezuela did not choose to live on a fault line. No one does. We build our lives on the ground beneath our feet, and we trust it to hold us. On June 24, 2026, that trust shattered in 39 seconds. But across the rubble of Caracas and La Guaira, something else appeared too. Hands. Hundreds, then thousands of hands. Rescuers, volunteers, neighbors, pulling survivors from the dark. The Venezuelan-American influencer Lele Pons, with over 52 million followers, turned her platform into a lifeline, asking survivors to mark where help was needed most. People found ways to reach each other, even with 200 websites blocked. That's the other thing about earthquakes. They expose everything. The failures of infrastructure, the inequalities of poverty, the paralysis of corrupt systems, but also, unmistakably, they expose the fierce, stubborn, remarkable refusal of human beings to abandon one another. Venezuela is still shaking. The world is watching, and now so are you.